Hello and welcome to Chapter 6, Trial Balance and Correction of Errors of Bookkeeping Controls, the Osborne Books AAT Level 2. What I'm going to do here then is take you through this chapter, which is the last chapter, and then we're done for this book. So, what it does is it considers the classification of errors really, and so at the first start it sort of suggests that we might have, we extract a trial balance from our general ledger. So we extracted it from our general ledger. And we've looked at all of the accounts, and they provide an example on page 103, and it balances, and the bottom figures balance. The debits equals the credits, and that's why in the last chapter I was suggesting that the accounting equation, the proper accounting equation, needs to be used, which is assets equals liabilities plus equity, debits equals credits. So that by doing that, you make sure that the debits and the credits are on the correct sides, and they balance. So that's there, and what happens if they don't balance? Well, it means that you've got an error in there. You've posted something incorrectly, and in 112 onwards it discusses suspense accounts and what's to do in that instance. But going forward into a page 104, the book suggests that even though your trial balance might balance, that there's still the potential for some errors. And what they do is they then give a series of different types and names to these errors, and you're thinking, well, why are there so many? It's just errors. Why give them all different names? And the reason why is because they each have a different effect, and they all require a different approach to find and to correct. So first of all, we'll go through the names of the errors, and then we'll go through how we're going to correct them. So we have an error of omission. So something is totally missing from us. We just simply did not post it in there. So completely missing. The debit and entry balances haven't been made for any of the transaction. As a consequence, the trial balance still balances, but the amounts are not right in each of the individual accounts. Then we have an error of commission. So we've posted to the correct control account in the general ledger. So in this instance, the sales ledger control account. But we posted to the wrong account, the wrong person's account on the supplementary ledger, the sales ledger. So we posted this debit to J Hughes rather than T Hughes. As a consequence, we won't be able to recover the money from J Hughes, and so the double entry bookkeeping is correct in the general ledger. It's just wrong in the sales ledger. That would be an error of commission. An error of principal is where we've put the right amount and the right credit on debit, but we've put it into the wrong account. So in the example they give here, they put it into the value of vehicles, so the vehicles account, rather than the cost of fuel for vehicles. So they debited the value of vehicles, the fixed asset value of vehicles, and they have instead of doing the debit to the cost of vehicles. So that's an error of principle. So our balance sheet still balances because we've still got a debit on the side of the balance sheet, but our accounts within the trial balance are incorrect. You know, the cars are not worth the amount that they've put, though that's actually the cost of fuel in their vehicle. Then we have error of original entry. So what we've had here is when we do the error, we do the wrong figure. So we've used the right account, and we've put the right balance. We've correctly gone for debits and credits on the correct sides, but we've used the wrong amount. So here it said that we've used instead of £45, well, £45 been entered rather than £54. So we've got the wrong figures within there, although we put them on the right sides and we've used the right accounts. Then we've got a reversal of entries, and this is where we've used the right accounts and we've used the right figures, but we've used the wrong sides. So we put a debit in as a credit and a credit in as a debit. And so our balance sheet will still balance, but the individual accounts are wrong. Then we've got a compensating error, and what this is that there's two errors made, but they perfectly cancel each other out. It's not likely, and typically compensating errors create suspense accounts, and it's a large movement one way and a large movement the other way, but they don't balance against each other. But here in this instance, we've got a compensating error that perfectly balances against each other, and so the trial balance still balances. So we then also as well then have this last one, which is this reversal of entries. Oh, sorry, we had reversal of entries, haven't we? The debits and credits are in there the wrong way around, and we've got a compensating error. Right. So we've got to fix these errors. And how are we going to do them? They each have a different approach. An error of omission, you're simply going to post the journals for the amounts omitted. So you're actually going to put in the journal that should have been in there. So in this instance here, they put in the sale of the goods. They put in what it should be. in there, and instead of putting it through the purchase or the sales day book, they put it through the journal. Then we have the error of commission. So here, the sales ledger control account is correct. So what happens is that the debit and the credit is posted to the sales ledger control account. So actually there's no movement in the sales ledger control account. Why on earth have we put this in there? Well, in the way in which an accounting system works, probably there's another bit which is posting it to the actual account within the sales ledger, and it's probably required to be posted. So that's the reason why over the page in 108 you'll see how they're then posted into the sales ledger in there, and there's two entries into the general ledger that just cancel each other out. So that's the error of commission. We've not really changed the general ledger account, but we have changed the supplementary ledger. We've then got this error of principal here, and we've got the figures in the wrong place. So all we've got to do really is do an entry that reverses the error and put it in the right figure. So that's just a single journal here to debit the vehicle expense and credit the vehicles. So that's how that one's done. So an error of principal will create one journal. Then we've got the error of original entry. Now this requires two journals, and I'm sure you're there looking and thinking, why bother? Why bother doing two journals in here? Why remove the initial incorrect entry and record the correct entry here? Why not just put the net figure? Why not put £9 different? And why not go credit bank £9, debit postage? No, credit postage £9, debit bank £9. Why not do that instead? And the reason why is because there'll be a financial document. If you remember in the 5-stage accounting system, there's a financial document stage. So there'll be a financial document sitting behind this postage expense, and we want to be able to reconcile that financial document back to the £45. If you put in £54 and minus £9, or effectively £54 credit, £9 debit, that doesn't reconcile back to the financial document that's been produced. So we reverse the original entry there, and we put the new one in because we need to be able to reconcile this figure back to the financial document. In the reversal of entries one, again, you're on here. We were the wrong way round. We had these posts, but we posted the debits on the wrong side and the credits on the wrong side. Here again, we need to post two journals to remove the original. One to remove the original entry, and the other one to post a new one. Again, you're asking why not just post one journal, which is twice the amount of the original one, on the opposite side. And again, the answer is you will not have then an entry within the general ledger that will correspond back to the financial document. So the first entry is removed, the second one is then put in, and the financial document then is compared to the second entry. Now here in the compensating error, it's got that in, and it does this net figure here. It does a net approach, and that's not actually correct, because if on the reversal of entries one and on the error of original entry we did reversing journals to clear out the original figure, in the compensating error one we should do exactly the same, and we should clear out the original figures and then put the new ones in, and that allows us again to reconcile up the journal entries in the general ledger to the original financial document. So the compensating error one, which has been put in as net here on page 111, that's not correct. If you just go along with me, right? So we've now got to page 112. Hopefully, you've seen that you've had some errors which aren't highlighted by the fact that the trial balance doesn't balance here. So you've sort of seen that you can have a trial balance that balances, but you have some errors in there, but you've also seen what you need to do to correct them. But what happens if you have a trial balance, as they show on page 113, where the debit balances don't equal the credit balances, and they're £300 out at the top of page 113? Well, what you do there is you create a suspense account to make them balance. So here there's a credit suspense account of £300, and then you investigate the errors. So you create this holding account, and it's sort of saying, look, there's an error in the account, I'm going to put this figure in to hold it, and then I'm going to investigate and clear them by using journal entries. Now, you might ask, oh, it's only £300, can we just write it off? And well, as previously I sort of said, compensating errors really are more likely to be £10,300 credit in, let's say, sales omission, and 10,000 of expenses in expenses omission. So they'll be wrong. So no, we have to clear them off because we have this potential of compensating errors that could lead to very large differences on either side. So we have to clear them out. So what you do then is you go through and you investigate your errors and what might be there. And what this is that the debits and the credits in some journal wouldn't have added up in there. So they then give some examples of going through all the way through to a page 115, all the way through to the end really, of how to clear a suspense account. Now, what we're now going to do then is if we move over to the case study in page 120. I brought forward this little chart from the previous chapter because I just think it's helpful. So in the first thing then, what we're going to do is we're going to have some steps to determine and clear up the suspense account. So first of all, we're going to determine the expense account, and let's assume in page 120 they didn't give us the suspense account at the bottom. We have to work it out ourselves. We'd go down and we'd use this to work out what these things would be. So vehicles would be a debit because it's an asset. Inventory would be an asset, so it's a debit. The bank overdraft would be things that we owe to the banks, that would be a credit. Petty cash would be an asset. The sales ledger control would be an asset. Purchase ledger control would be a credit. So the sales ledger would be an asset, so it would be a debit. Purchase ledger control would be a liability, so it would be a credit. VAT owing to HM Customs and Excise would be a liability, so it would be a credit. Capital, which is equity, liability to the shareholders, so it would be a credit. Loan from the bank, liability to the bank, a credit. Now, in these figures below, in the sales lines here, I'm not sure whether you, I think you actually do this at level 3, but this is the profit and loss account here. And so this is the money that is owed, effectively owing to the shareholders. The money that the company makes is owing to the shareholders. So anything that the company makes in terms of sales would be money that would ultimately go to the shareholders, but any expenses that would be incurred would be things that we don't have to pay the shareholders. And that's probably the easiest way to think of this one. So a sale would be something we would owe to the shareholders eventually, so that would be a liability, so that would be a credit. Sales returns, well, sales coming back, so that would be a reducing liability, so that would be a debit. Purchases, an expense, so we don't, so it's a reducing liability, so it would be a debit. Purchase returns, though, well, it's an increasing liability, so it would be a debit. There's expenses, reducing liability, debit. Wages, reducing liability, debit. Rent and rates, reducing liability, debit. Advertising, reducing liability, debit. Heating and lighting, reducing liability to our shareholders, so debit. And telephone, reducing liability to our shareholders, so a debit. If you added those up there, though, it gives you a credit balance on the suspense account of £720. More likely, you're going to be asked to produce what is the suspense account. It then offers some journals that we do. So step 1, we've determined the suspense account. Step 2, then, we're going to post the journals that we're given to the suspense account, which they do on page 121, and we're going to see if that suspense account then doesn't have a brought forward or doesn't have a carried forward figure. So there's the £720 there. We've got 3 debit figures, so 2 debit figures in the first journal entry. So where that looks like a reversal of entries error. Just check that myself. Yes, so that's a reversal of entries error, that they're on the wrong side. Or is it? No, that looks like actually it's not a reversal of entries because it wouldn't affect the balance sheet, would it? And no, here this is just errors where they've omitted the actual the amounts received. So we posted to the sales, but we've not posted to the cash book. So those 2 figures, those 2 errors there are debit the bank, credit the bank, debit the suspense account twice, £450 worth in total. And then we've also then got this suspense account here where we have made an error, which has done an error which is the wrong figures in terms of the sales amount. It should have been £4,520 in the sales figure, but we put the right sales figure in either the sales ledger control account or the bank account, and instead we put £4,250 in the sales figure. So we were out by that amount. So we post both, and remember we're doing the reversal of the original one, and then we put the second one in so that our sales reconciled up to whatever it is, our invoice or our till roll. We post those to the suspense account, and we check that that suspense account is now cleared. If we're happy that the suspense account's cleared, then you can move on, and now you can post the opposite side or the opposite sides of those journals to the individual accounts. So you redo the other accounts, which is what they're doing then on the rest of page 121, and then they redo the balance sheet, but with those adjusted figures. So instead of the bank overdraft being where have we got it, 7,847, it is 8,297. Instead of the sales, instead of being 84,567, it's 84,837. So those are there. That then clears that suspense account and the trial balance balances. So that's what they've done in that case study, and that's how that works. So let's do what we always like, a little bit stressful at the end of it, but can I get the questions right? So let's move over to page 125, question 6.1. The following errors have been made. Which ones would be disclosed by the trial balance and which ones won't? So a bank payment for telephone expenses has been recorded on the debit side of both sides of the cash book and the telephone expense account. A balance sheet won't balance there. We put in two debits rather than a debit and a credit, so that one would be disclosed by the trial balance. The payment recorded in the bank account for vehicle repairs has been entered in the vehicle account. So what we've actually done there then, that is an, let's go back to those ones, that is an error in error of principle, that isn't it? So we put that as an error of principle. That won't be disclosed by the trial balance. The sales invoice that have been omitted from all accounting records, that's an error of omission, so that won't be disclosed by the trial balance. Balance of purchases returns account has been calculated incorrectly. So we've just worked out we've just calculated the balances, the figure in the purchase returns account incorrectly. Well, that will be disclosed by the trial balance because all the other ones will be correct and that one will be wrong, and the trial balance won't balance. A bank payment from a trade receivable has been recorded in the cash book and the sales ledger only. So it hasn't. So it's been put in the cash book, debit cash book. It's been put in the sales ledger, credit sales ledger, but it hasn't been put in the sales ledger control account in the general ledger. And remember, the sales ledger is not part of the general ledger. It's a supplementary ledger. And so we've basically gone debit cash book, credit nothing. That one will be picked up by the trial balance. A bank payment for £85 for stationery has been recorded by £58 in both accounts. So that is an error of original entry, and so that will not be disclosed by the trial balance. Okay, let's just check that I got that one. Yay, got those right. 6.2. An account has been entered into the accounting system as £65 instead of £56. So that is going to be an error of original entry. Yes, it is. Okay, the trial balance failed to balance. The debit column is 154,896. The credit column is 155,297. So credits are bigger than debits. So you're going to have a debit suspense account for the difference, which will be £383 debit. Including your suspense account, your credits will be equal to your debits. Nice. 6.4. Trial balance fails to be agreed by £75, and the difference is placed in a suspense account. Later, it is found a cash sale for this amount has not been entered into the sales account. So we would have had debit cash, credit, and we've missed out the credit sales. Which one of the following journal entries is correct? It's going to be credit sales, So it could be either A or D. But we need to clear the suspense accounts. So credit sales is just a one-sided entry, so it can't be that. So it's going to be debit suspense account, which it will be. Credit the sales account, so it's A. 6.5. Yep. The following errors have been made in the general ledger of Merford Manufacturing. Right, okay. Record the journal entries. Right, okay, well let's go through. £100 have been debited to rents rather than to rates. So that is an error of principle. So we're going to go credit the rent account, debit the rates account. Sales returns have been entered in the accounting records as £96 instead of £69. So we would reverse the original entry. So we would go credit sales returns 96 and debit sales returns 69. And then we would go, well, and the first one we would do is credit sales returns 96, debit sales ledger control account 96, and then the second one would be debit sales returns 69, credit sales ledger control account, sales ledger control account £69. So remember, we do two journals there. We reverse the original one that was wrong, and then we do the new one. Question C. Purchase returns of £75 has been debited to purchase returns account and credited to the purchase ledger control account. So in here, what we would do is, again, we've got an error, and that is just the wrong way around. So what we're going to have to do really is to reverse the first one. So we're going to debit the purchase ledger control account £175 and credit purchase returns £175, and then we're going to put the correct one in. Debit purchase ledger control account £175, credit purchase returns £175. So we put the same thing in twice there, and the reason why is because then we can compare the credit note, let's say here, to the financial document to the £175. Okay, and the last one again is just an error of principle, so just put that one in. Right, okay, stating the types of errors then. 6.6. A credit sale to £150 to J. Rigby has not been entered into account, error of omission. A bank payment of £125 to H. Price Payroll and has been recorded to H. Prince. So it's correct in the general ledger, but it's wrong in the sales ledger. So that's going to be error of commission. Just check. Yep. Cost of new delivery of a van, £10,000 entered in the vehicle expenses one. That's an error of principle. They're going very much in order, aren't they? Of that they've been given in the chapter. Postage of £55 made by bank payment has been rendered into wrong side. Alright, so that's going to be the wrong side of both accounts. That's going to be a reversal of entries one. We decided to move away from the order. Both purchase account and purchase returns have been undercast by £100. That's an error, compensating error. Yep. And then a bank receipt of £89 from L. Johnson. A trade receivable has been entered into the account as £98, and that is going to be an error of original entry. You're then going to do the correcting journal, so the omission one you'd put in, just follow the ones that we've got. I think pretty much if you just do the rest of the questions from that point, it's good. You're good to go, really. In doing the questions, I will keep that there. That's going to help you a lot in terms of just getting your debits and your credits right and working out how to produce your journals. Remember, in the previous chapter, chapter 5, you've got how to produce the journals, and I provide the method which will make it a lot easier to produce it. Good luck. That's the end of the book. I hope you've had or you've enjoyed them, that they're useful to you, and yeah, leave some feedback if you want to. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.